So good evening. This is the Nagog Hill Orchard Ad Hoc Working Group meeting for January 6, 2022. Our agenda tonight is quick. It's a review of material for a joint meeting with the Select Board that is scheduled for this coming Monday. We're going to get an update on the orchard assessment and pruning, a discussion and review of the scope of inclusion in the request for proposals, and then next steps. So I had shared with the group a PowerPoint presentation last week. I ran it by town council and he said it was fine. So we're going to be sharing that with the select board on Monday at our joint meeting. I don't think we have a time on that yet. Do we, Joe?
The agenda is now posted. I'll just look that up, and if you want to just
yeah, it's not. I was just curious. Sure, that's not a big deal. Okay, and so that's great. And so we'll move on to an update on the assessment that you've been putting together for the pruning scope of services.
Okay, thanks. So you all should have gotten my notes from meeting with John Clement from UMass. Basically, it was nice to hear that he thought that, one, he was expecting the orchard to be in worse shape. With it had been a number of years since he had been out there, and he basically said at that time, they weren't doing the greatest job pruning. That's something that we've heard, at least consistently, from some of the people, that some pruning activities really weren't according to standard and or have not been done. But that another thing that was good was that he said that we're essentially in better shape than he also thought we would be, that we're getting a lot of good recommendations, that it's consistent, that we're getting good advice as far as focusing in on the block of the orchard that we've all been discussing. He agreed with recommendations as far as removing trees. The only thing he basically said is, like, that's not something that you have to do immediately. So going through sort of like the rest of the notes, he agreed with focusing in on the pruning and start to think about how you might line up some of the other services like mowing and spraying. But he's like, that's not something that you have to get taken care of right now, but start thinking about lining those things up. He basically had said that because we already have an idea as far as what we need to do in the short term, to basically get back in touch with him in a couple months. He didn't see the need to go through and have any physical assessment of the orchard, looking at varieties and all those things, because part of it is going to be, what do we want to do with the orchard? And we're not going into sort of like trying to do a commercial enterprise. He knows we're trying to go back out to RFP, and we discussed the likelihood of getting someone. It's not a foregone conclusion that we could, but we also don't know if there's a unicorn out there that we might find. But that he offered assistance in trying to get the word out. Regarding spraying, he did say that everyone should expect to essentially do some higher spraying because of lax spraying that was done last year, and the need to maybe get things under control. And whether or not we talked about, do we have anyone on staff? Can we hire anyone? Can we just consult out the work, or contract out the work, not consult out? And he did recommend talking again with Pat Kay as far as maybe trying to get some estimates. He thought, as we were discussing, like spraying maybe about $20K. When you're thinking about for pesticides, for insecticides, and some of the other things that are needed. We also talked about, do we have anyone that can basically be a go-to consultant to help with someone that can be more focused on what needs to be done. He joked that I seem to be learning a lot about the orchard. And in the end, I think this is something that's also been consistent, is for us just to focus on what do we want to do for the long term, not to necessarily rush in and sign a RFP or a response put it out, see what's out there. But if something doesn't seem right, town has time. And that's where the time, as far as even removal of the trees, he said, yes, you are right that pest and disease is going to, transfer, but not to get focused and to think that you have to do that right away. And so we could take time to do that. He's going to write up his notes from the meeting and provide some recommendations. He said he'd try to get that to me tomorrow or on Saturday. Told him that we're trying to pull things together for a meeting on Monday. So when I get something from him, I'll send it along. I also sent him the draft sort of scope of services and quote request. He agreed to take a look at and get back to me with any comments. I told him that want to try to finalize things as soon as possible as well. So that's our walk in a nutshell.
All right, that's great, Joe. That was a really good comprehensive summary you provided to us, and it sounds like it was a really productive and positive meeting. So thank you for arranging that and taking the time to do that. All right, so we're in good shape as far as that goes. And now so he's going to provide you with feedback for the RFP that we're going to talk to the select board about on Monday.
And also just feedback as far as like recommended steps. We did also discuss like costs for pruning. He thought if we had like the budget, like we discussed last time, as far as $15 a tree, he's like, that's on the high side, but that's probably not bad from a budgetary planning perspective. And he agreed it probably is in that 10 to 12 range. And that's $10 to $12 a tree. If we use 15 for budgetary purposes, we should have more than enough to take care of it. The only thing was that when we were discussing the blocks to concentrate on, that first block 4, the one that's closest to Neshoba and Nagog, no, I think that's 5. He basically said, we almost want to really concentrate on that one, that as you go through 4, the next one up, you can see lack of care for the trees. I mean, it's like, include it just if you have it easily divided by these blocks, but don't go further than that. It just really wouldn't be worth the town's effort and, that the amount of upkeep as far as pruning and spraying that would be needed. It would just be a little bit larger than maybe what he thought was going to be able to be managed by the town. I took another look at that scope that I had prepared and basically made some changes to reflect our conversation. So once get some initial, some last minute feedback from him, and I should have all that in advance of the select board's meeting. At least going into that joint meeting should be able to have some indication as far as maybe going out and starting to soliciting those quotes.
Okay, great. All right, so that's what we'll plan to do then. If you can pull that together, Joe, and incorporate that in, for our meeting on Monday. Yep. Circulate to this group in advance so everybody gets a chance to look at it, and then we can have a discussion with the select board about it on Monday. I think that's perfect. Yeah. All right, good. Excellent. Any comments from committee members about what's been discussed so far?
I just have a question. This is Amy. I just have a question for Joe and maybe Cindy. Does the Board of Selectmen have a goal of when we'll have someone fully take over the orchard, or are they just very open to any time frame?
Well, what we're doing right now, Amy, is we're working on the RFP to provide recommendations to the select board about what we would like to see included in that, and then to have that discussion with them and present it to them and see what their thoughts are as far as the time frame goes. Paul, do you have any other comments on that?
To say, I think it's the reason we're doing what we're doing is to help drive that decision. We're going into it, we could only guess at when we could realistically either turn it over to a new tenant or run it ourselves or whatever it is, but this process is helping to define that. So that's what this is all about.
Okay. Yeah, so it's not really like the Sorry, I was not on mute and then I was on mute. So it's not like the town's like, we only want to sort of like want to do this and be fully responsible for it for a year and a half. They're very open, it sounds like, to recommendations. Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from committee members? Okay. So next steps, we will meet with the select board on Monday. We should start having discussions about the RFP. Jen and I can follow up on that. I know there's been some iterations that have been circulated around, but I was thinking that maybe we could just have committee members provide comments about what they would like to see included in that document. And then we can formulate how we want to make recommendations to the select board, what recommendations we do want to make, especially significant changes. And then that's it. And then, so we're going to meet on Monday. Do we have a subsequent meeting scheduled?
No.
After select board? So we can decide on that on Monday, or we can decide on it now. What's the?
Are you referring to this committee meeting or a joint meeting?
Well, we're going to have a joint meeting with the select board Monday. So then when do we as a group want to meet again?
I think
After this.
if we could go back to that Wednesday schedule, because that way we can take what we've learned from that Monday meeting, if there's something that you want to follow course on right after that discussion. May I ask one question, just to back up just a second on the RFP? Is there one in particular that you all have found that you've enjoyed, kind of like reading, that might be comparable? Granted, nothing's going to be comparable, but has there been one that we found that I know we're kind of pulling from different resources, but I was just curious if there was one that we've seen or that you all have seen.
Yeah, you know what, honestly, personally, Sarah, I have not found like one comprehensive document, but I've found a few that there's pieces of it that I'm like, oh, this is interesting, or I like the way this reads, or that type of thing. But yeah, but nothing.
That's exciting. I'm glad there's little golden nuggets in there somewhere.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Our base document, the one we issued last year, that was largely good. We could certainly improve on it, but I don't think that was the reason we ended up in a mess as far as the base document.
Well, I mean,
I wasn't insinuating that. I just think it's also, now that we're at that crossroads, it might be a nice time to envelop other things into it as well.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I think you guys, if you guys had a chance to look at what I sent over yesterday, I thought there was a couple of good nuggets in there, and I know everybody's super busy and no problem if nobody has gone through it, but there were some things that I thought it was worded pretty nicely. Again, not to replace what the town has already done, but maybe to augment and add a couple of little things in there. So that was information.
And did you happen to highlight any of those or redline any of those? I don't know how long that document was, but I was just curious if there's some that stuck out if you highlighted it.
I did. Well, so I'm a traditional paper pencil person. I printed it out and with a red pen, I just went through and starred a couple things and did that, but I did not scan an email. I just attached the original document that she shared with me. This gal, Vanessa, shared with me. So, but they worked on it. She said they worked on things for almost a year. It was a little more involved than our situation is because of the way they did the ground lease. But when it came down to finalizing everything, it was their attorney working with this, the gentleman from Equity Trust, and they helped with the wording. So it sounds like, we're obviously at a point now where we're tweaking our own RFP. And once we're comfortable as a committee with that, then I would imagine it would go to town council again for them to review. And if there's anything else, we can reach out. But they were very willing to help in any way they could. So it was about an hour-long conversation I had with her, and she just had a lot of good information.
Right.
I wish we had that, a month ago, but I just got it yesterday. So
maybe we can just take the little nuggets that we're referring to them as and compile those together and then share those amongst the group. Because like you said, eventually this is all going to go by the select board and it'll go back to town council to create, a legal document. So maybe that's a good way to start too. Is just to see which nuggets we like, which nuggets we don't like, or
Sure.
gaps, identify any gaps of things that we feel we should look further into, and maybe we'll approach it from that perspective.
Okay.
Sounds great.
So, okay. All right, good. So the next meeting would be, if we're meeting with the select board Monday, that would be Wednesday, the 12th. Is everybody free?
Yep.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
All right.
And I know we were going to look it up. Do we have a definitive time for Monday? Sorry if I missed that.
It's on the agenda for, what, 7:50, Joe?
Yeah.
We're at 7:50. Okay. 7:50. All right, good. All right. And so then we'll be at the select board meeting Monday at 7:50. And then we will plan on meeting at our regularly scheduled time on Wednesday, January 12th.
And
And
just
just a quick note, this is Amy, just a quick note. So Jen Clance and I are going to go out to Shoreland Farms next week on a Thursday to go visit them and tour around, and then take Joanne, who's the president of that nonprofit, out for lunch. So we'll have some good information after that.
Great.
Excellent.
That's great.
Good. All right, good. Any other questions or comments?
Good luck with your meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
Zoom
you.
to Zoom.
Oh, yeah. All right, good. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn
Aye.
at 5:45.
Second.
I'll second
I
it.
second it.
Motion to adjourn has been made and seconded. All those in favor, Sarah Seward,
Aye.
Jen Clancy,
Aye.
Amy Tarlo Lewis,
Aye.
Will Pickard,
Aye.
Paul Glavy,
Aye.
and Cindy Napoli is aye, and that convenes our meeting for this evening. Have a great rest of your week, everybody, and we'll see you on Monday.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, can you resend out the planning board link, please, to me?
Sure.